And before we even show you a few things, Martin wants to cover and just speak to some of the things that we see going on with AI and really why eOne is making some of the investments we are. So Martin, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hey, great to see everybody. And I want to share a little bit of my excitement around AI. I openly admit about 3 months ago, I was somewhat an AI skeptic, and we hadn't really got our heads around AI, but we've spent the last 4 months digging really deep and realized there's a perfect storm building within AI that requires the exact things that eOne's been working on for the last 20 years, and that is access to quality data, and then the ability to take action on that data through data integration. So both of those things coming together inside AI is a perfect scenario for us, and the more we've dug into it, the more excited I've got about software. So what I want to talk to you today about is where we fit, where eOne fits, and to help bring you on a little bit of the journey that I've been on for the last 4 months as we go through where AI applies, how it applies to business data, and what we can do with it. So let me share my screen here. You should all be able to see my chat GPT. Now, I imagine everybody on this call has seen or used ChatGPT or Claude or some other LLM to ask questions. Now, the normal business case would be something like this, and I'm going to paste in here, and this is a fake one, but a similar question to what I asked a few weeks ago, which is, hey, ChatGPT, can you calculate the net leverage ratio based upon some data for me? And when I say go and do it, it runs off and it does a net leverage ratio calculation, which is kind of cool. Would have taken me a lot of time to go and look that up, find it, pull the numbers in, do it in a spreadsheet. Really cool. Now, where the power of AI really kicks in, yeah, I could have done that. It would have taken me 15 minutes instead of 3, but I could have done it. But then I get to say, how does this ratio, or better, yeah, how does this ratio fit for a software company? And it's going to then run off, and it knows things like industry standards. So it gives me, hey, depending on where you're at in your journey, this is how it's calculated. This is what a PE firm's going to like. This is what a bank's going to like. Anybody that's lent you money. So it's going to do all that. So that's the beauty of AI, is it's read every book about finance. It's read every book about how to calculate things. It's understanding the data, and that's the wonders of AI. If I then say in here though, please tell me which customers sold the most Smart Connect, and ask it that question. Understandably, it says, wait, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't read any books about your business. There is no publicly available data about your business because it can't connect to my ERP. It doesn't have, well, in our case, GP, it doesn't know how to connect. So it's saying, hey, you're going to have to do a lot of work. And this is where I think eOne is going to kick in and help solve this problem. Because you need to provide secure access to this data. Now, you also don't want to provide it with all of your data. There's no way you want to expose your ERP in its entirety to an AI tool, because it's going to use that data, learn from that data. It's not a secure workspace in here. Now, if I ask it, ChatGPT is going to say it doesn't steal my data, it doesn't take it out of this environment, but it is not a secure place to put all that data. So when I go and ask it, and I've been playing with this for you to ask ChatGPT the most secure way to share data with you, and a lot of the answer it comes up with is the concept of MCP, or Model Context Protocol. Now let's not get hung up on that. That's like an ODBC to your data that says, hey, let's give data to ChatGPT so it can do some work. So I'll pop down to one I've clicked on earlier, and I asked it, hey, when I'm connecting, what's the best practice for getting access to the data? And the first line it says here is really important. I think this is where eOne really kicks in, is limit the scope. Only provide AI with data that it needs. So don't expose it to lots of data. Limit and control the data you give access to. So just like you would control the data you give to an employee, somebody, you know, in our case, Katie just talked about Heather. So we go through a security process to say Heather gets access to certain data related to finances and accounting, but she doesn't get access to other data, and we limit that. So it's the same with any AI project. So for each AI project, whether that's ChatGPT here, whether that's a chatbot for your support team, whether that's a customer portal where you're giving them access to data, you limit the scope of what people can see. And then absolutely access control. And it gives me a whole bunch of things here, because what we're doing is using APIs to connect in the background. So where eOne fits in, and I'm going to go back to those PowerPoint slides, Katie, so I might let you take back over. Pull that PowerPoint up. And so this is where eOne is going to fit in. And I'll hand to Chris shortly, and Chris will step you through some use cases. Turn this camera off and I'll go back to the PowerPoints. And this is where eOne fits in. So the concept of MCP is great, and it will connect you to lots of different systems, and all of the apps on the left are starting to build their own MCP service. That gets extremely complicated if you end up with 10 or 15 different connections. So what we've done for you is wrap Popdock in its own MCP server, so that any AI platform, chat, whatever project you're working on, can make one call to the Popdock MCP and ask any question you like. Now, the hardest thing about providing data to AI is interpreting that data or telling the AI about your business. Exposing a database is kind of useless, because then you're letting AI make decisions. You're letting it filter through loads and loads of data, and it comes up with nonsense answers. So again, you've got to be really prescribed about which pieces of data you expose. So for each of the applications you use on the left, you know, that might be GP, it might be Business Central, you might also use Salesforce, you might use Dynamics CRM, you might use Concur, or you might use Gorilla Expense. You might have an own internal database, you might use Shopify. The power of AI is really only good if AI is understanding all of those things and understanding your business. And this is the layer that eOne's providing, is we interpret your business, give it clear natural language definitions, so that when you ask a question of it, it knows and understands how to get the answer, where to get the answer. So a question coming into Popdock from one of these chat platforms or to the MCP will say, hey, I know that the question you ask is about tickets. We need to go to Zendesk. We know that the question you asked is about professional services billing. We know we've got to go to GP. We know that that was a question about our e-commerce engine. We need to go to WooCommerce. So Popdock is providing the information for the AI platform to go and collect the right data in a really controlled manner, and only the fields that they need. Let's jump to the next slide there, Katie. So here we're back inside Popdock, which is the tool you all know, which is connecting to data from any data source. It's a query engine that lets us really pull together all the data. Now, if you look at this one here, and I know it's a little small, you'll notice when I go and pull up a list, and this is a sales table, a sales connection inside Popdock, you'll notice here that it's got the word amount like on every field. There's like 25 different fields here that have the amount in it. Now, when you're talking AI, you don't want to let AI guess which amount you're talking about. You know, what is the amount of? AI is going to make a punt. It's going to make a guess unless you've told it about your business and what this data means in these fields. So just exposing tables and ERP data doesn't achieve you anything other than it will get you a a mixed up soup of answers every time you ask a given question, unless you're able to define really clearly what data you are providing to the AI here. And that comes back to, you know, as I said at the beginning, limiting the scope. Let's jump to the next one. You'll notice in here, I've got a screen. This is a Popdock screen called MCP prompt settings. Now, this is what I said. I'm telling the MCP servers about what data I'm able to provide. So in this case, I've got a Popdock list or a Popdock query that pulls specifically professional services sales numbers. So I've limited the scope. I didn't say, here's the sales order processing tables, have at it, have a look at every piece of information. But if I want to provide this to my project managers, I want to provide this to my professional services team, my consultants, and my professional services leader, I'm going to give a specific list of data that limits it just to the data I want. And now my natural language description is that this is a list of professional services sales. We bill by the hour. So if you take the total extended quantity and divide by the thing, you'll get the hourly rate. And note that training is handled differently because ChatGPT doesn't know anything about how I do business at eOne. And so this is me telling ChatGPT how we do business, what the data means. So when our professional services manager, Mark Anderson, many of you know him, asks a question in ChatGPT and says, hey, how many hours have we got per consultant in this scenario? It knows to go off and look at the right data and pull the right data back. And you get to do this in Popdock at every single level of the data you're providing. And if you don't, and if you, the better the description here, and I could write a much better one than this one, the better the description, the better results AI can have. So Mark could run this and pull up utilization records, and then he can use ChatGPT to say, hey, how does this compare to industry standards? What are the things that people do to make this better, because we seem to be below? And that's again connecting the power of these activities. Let's go to the next slide. This is another example, but this is a more complex one, and a predefined prompt. Now I'm building this inside Popdock, but this will then display as a tool, and the concept of tools is important. A tool is a thing that you can do inside your AI, and this one's going through MCP, but to build a report. That's a predefined report that I might want to run every day. So it's just going to be a link that I can run. And you can notice here we've given really specific instructions on how to do a Zendesk ticket analysis. So the English language structure, the natural language structure here is what's interpreted, and then AI can do amazing things with that. We often call AI a really fast working intern. It knows, it will do anything you ask, and it will do it with a great deal of passion. But if you don't give it really clear instructions, it will make mistakes. It will make things up. It will guess because it doesn't know, just like an intern doesn't know how your business runs or businesses in general. And it comes up with that information. So I mentioned earlier, let's go to the last slide. The perfect storm of AI is that you need to connect to data, something that Popdock does extraordinarily well, and it's one of the most powerful end user query engines. So all the things we're talking about here is end user driven. You can build them without writing any code at all, and that's the whole concept. If I went back to my questions to the system and ChatGPT, and it was giving examples of limiting the MCP calls, it would have structured that right down to writing some code to do it. Popdock takes all of that away, so you can produce a query with controls and restrictions and filters and limit that. But the real power comes when you've got access to all of the systems you use, and every customer of yours uses 10, 15, 20 or more systems, guaranteed. And the power of AI is to do things cross-system. So pull some data out of your ERP, analyze that against the data in your support system and see which customers are happy or not. Then take action, create activities in CRM, push that data to another place, build an analysis report or a spreadsheet. But you've got to get access to the secure data in the first place, and Popdock is the easiest and by far the easiest way to do it. You'll see a lot of these tools will come up with their own connections, but then you'll end up with 20 MCP connections, and that gets extremely confused. You'll have 20 security models, and Popdock gives you one single security model to do so. So that's my overview for you of where not MCP, but where eOne and AI collide, and how we can help you interpret your customers' businesses so AI understands it, and you get by far the best results without writing code and without having to hire expensive AI developers.